Visitors at Christmas. I guess that it should come as no surprise that in a house such as ours, Christmas was quite the big affair. Waking up in the morning to my parents' reading of the Nativity always required a great deal of spiritual discipline for kids, as it was awful hard not to be thinking ahead to the part where you got to open your presents. Of course, that itself was an elongated process due to the combination of having six siblings and my mother's German sense of order, which said that we had to open our stuff one gift at a time, one kid at a time. The process could last hours. After the gifts, we'd go eat the fresh baked cinnamon buns that my parents' friend Rod brought us every year. Then came the long period of preparation for the big feast ahead. Our typical Christmas dinner crowd numbered in the 20s, and everyone was given some set of tasks to make it all happen. Peeling potatoes, setting up chairs and tables, picking up those who needed a ride, quarantining misbehaved pets. Quite the procedure. By 5, we were all gathered around one big table. Guests ranged from the traditional mix of grandparents, cousins, aunts, and uncles, to the less traditional, such as the many foreigners who had their only American Christmas dinner with us. Some of these were our exchange students. Other times we had Asian medical students from Penn. There was always a smattering of older folks who didn't have a family to celebrate with, and once we even had an elderly Jewish couple who had survived the Holocaust. Perhaps no guest sticks out to me as clearly as the Pentecostal minister, Sister Minas. To know her, you got to know her stepson, one Alfonso Woody. Woody, as he was known, was one of my dad's favorite clients. A massive man, not just in height and weight, but in character. Woody, too, was a Pentecostal minister from Camden, and he had seen the worst of what the world can do. He and his wife ran a ministry at Yardville Prison, and they hosted a Christmas meal every year that was made up of prisoners and friends. Beyond that, on some occasions, they even sent over some sweet potato pies for our gathering. Our kind of people. We'll come back to them in a minute. Our dinner table, for all its variables, mostly kept to a simple and general sort of conversation, so that all would feel included. Light joking, some reminiscing, and maybe a little news about family and friends abroad. A good percentage of the guests were my very letter of the law Catholic older relatives. My parents were always careful to make sure that we didn't go bringing up stuff from any of our other churches. They were good, simple souls, and we did our best not to offend them. Dad would even include the Catholic dining prayer at the end of his own. Sometimes, though, things did not go as according to plan. Such was the case one year when we got a visit from Woody and Sister Minas. Normally all the food was taken care of by that time. Excuse me. Normally all the food was taken care of by the time we sat down, but on this night, Woody came with a sweet potato pie, just as everyone was taking their seats. He and Sister Minas were on their way to their own gathering, but my dad wanted to honor the presence of this weathered old woman of the cloth, and so he invited Sister Minas to come to the table and offer a little prayer for our meal. She was small and frail. What's the worst she could do? For Sister Minas, the words little and prayer never fit together. Nor did she see fit to waste this opportunity to win some wayward souls for the Lord. Thus she set in on what we'll call a small sermon by her standards, but a long pre-meal prayer by ours. She came out of the gate at full speed. It's real simple now, people. You're either going to heaven or you're going to hell. Her voice was as loud as her message, and it continued on for about 10 of the most awkward minutes of my parents' life. So much for keeping things light and easy. Eventually, she did come around to thanking God for the meal, and then they were on their merry way. I guess that everyone adjusted okay, because I don't remember much of the rest of that evening. Nobody seemed to know quite what to do with it, and no one brought it up. For the relatives, it was just one more confirmation that you truly never knew what you would get at the McCullough house. Whether or not they related to the message of Sister Minas, there was another message that was coming through. That the God who we were celebrating belonged to everybody, shepherd and magi alike. Our table reflected our faith in his message of good news for the poor and of setting the captives free, of peace on earth and goodwill towards everybody, from every walk of life and from every corner of the earth. And so I wish you all a Merry Christmas from way down at the kids' end of the table.